Hello everyone, TheEZGZ here. Welcome back to the School of Hard Knocks. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about Volkswagen heads and some of the things to look for when you're freshening up a motor, looking at them. We mentioned in a earlier video to be sure and look around this area right in here when you remove the heads. Make sure that there's no solid tracks of carbon in there or signs of it leaking, and just at the overall condition. You can look at these heads here and you can kind of get an idea of how your carburetors were set, if they're rich or lean, if you've got just heaps of carbon in there, you know, you might be jetted a little rich. One of the things you can do if you do see those carbon tracks and it's or make them a little bit more defined, you can put some machinist bluing on there, or you can put it on your cylinders, and you can take your cylinders. I don't have one sitting here, sorry about that. But you can take the cylinder. You always lay your cylinders out and mark them with a magic mark, permanent marker. At least I always do. You know which cylinder is going to go where. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the direction it's going to go on. Take that cylinder and take a little valve grinding compound. You can put it on the edge, and you can hold that cylinder, put it in the head, and rotate it back and forth, and it will, even if you have a real small leak and you catch it soon enough, sometimes you can match it up. If it's really bad, you really need to take it to a machine shop, have it fly cut, and they've got a big mill and a way to set it up so that they get it nice and straight and flat. But when you do that, you're reducing the size of your combustion chamber and you're raising the compression of your motor, and that may or may not be a good thing. While I got the head in this position, I also want to talk about spark plugs. The reason I like to use Bosch spark plugs is because they fit in the spark plug hole properly. If you get in a pinch and you go to your local store nowadays, most stores don't carry the Bosch spark plugs, and you say, you know, I need a spark plug for a 1970 Volkswagen 1600. You know, I mean, they're all pretty much the same back then, and if that's the style of head you had, if you don't have the deep threaded plugs, what's going to happen, and I've seen this before, I was going to go and see if I could buy a Champion spark plug just to demonstrate this, but I thought, you know, no sense spending my good hard-earned money just for a plug that I'll never use, and I just won't ever use those plugs. I got burnt on that. Somebody built me an engine in the early days, and oh, this was going to be the best engine, and it was going to have the best heads, and he told me how, yeah, one of these days you'll take those heads off, and I paid a lot of money for that engine. It was a 2110, and here's the deal. Probably better with the lighting. I hope you can see this. See how nice that spark plug sits in there? It sits in flush. If you bought like a Champion spark plug, what's going to happen? It comes into the cylinder. It'll screw in. It'll fit. Your car will run just fine. But what happens is you get carbon buildup. You get about 1.5 threads protruding into the cylinder, and that carbon will stick in the threads, and you won't notice it. And you know, a few thousand miles down the road, you want to do a tune-up, changing the points, figure you'll put some plugs and wires on or whatever, and you take that spark plug out, and that carbon is just trashing those spark plug threads. These heads, I don't have to tell anybody how sensitive they are with, they're soft. I mean, you got a steel spark plug and you got an alloy head, and you're going to tear them up. So I like to avoid that whenever possible, but that's the reason why. Now here's another little trick. If you take the electrode, I know you can see it better here in the light. If you take the electrode, and if you want your spark, your ignition to work a little bit better, say you got a high compression, high performance engine, you can index this spark plug so that it faces, you want the electrode away from the valve. The large valve is your intake valve on the inside, and you can get a little bit better flame start if you have your spark plug indexed that way. What you can do is you put it in and you tighten her down, and what you'll have to do is get the spark plug washers, and I know nobody that sells the spark plug washers. What I did was go through one of those Dorman boxes that they had at Napa, and I got some, I think they were copper, little washers for something else. I have no idea, but I asked the guy if he had any spacers or spark plug washers, and I ended up digging through this box, and I did that one time, and it really had no effect on the way my engine ran, but it made me feel good, you know what I'm saying? So I got it so it would tighten up and a little torque it down. Then what you want to do is take a magic marker and put a mark on the nut side of the head. And this is pretty much impossible if it's in a car. You're not going to be able to see in there unless you want to start playing with mirrors and that. But it worked pretty good for a sandrail where your engine's hanging off in outer space in the back. You can see it. You can work on them a lot easier. So, enough of that spark plug. I might just make this into several parts, because I'm going to show you another little trick. Something that happened to me one time. I was on a vacation, probably 600 miles from home, second or third day out, and my buggy started running bad, and I says, man, I got a bad spark plug. And I was shooting my mouth off, wasn't paying attention, and I started the thread wrong. I dropped it in the tool, figured, you know, I can do this blindfolded in the dark. Really wasn't paying much attention, and it started crooked, and it boogered up those first couple of threads in the head. Boy, was I an unhappy camper. And every time I took it out, I tried a different spark plug. I went around camp and I asked everybody, I says, hey, has anybody got a tap for a spark plug? And they said, wow, what thread size is that? I don't even know. Nobody had anything. Here's an old spark plug. I'm going to demonstrate what exactly I did. I took a plug, a good plug, and I think I had a vice grip, and I clamped it to the frame of my trailer. And what I did was just took that spark plug and I grabbed a hacksaw, and what I did is I just started cutting down the spark plug right here. Just went right down next to the insulator. And it wasn't easy, it was hard, just like it is right now. What I did, is I cut right down through the threads on an old spark plug. Made myself a nice little notch like that. And I think what I did is I took a hammer. Now you've relieved a little bit of pressure right there. Sorry I'm not ready as usual. Grabbing my hammer. If I had a hammer. And I grab a punch. I don't even see my punch. I hadn't planned on doing this. It just kind of like came to me there all of a sudden. That looks like way too much metal to do what I was planning on doing. How did I do that? Oh, I just cut it on that top part of the... Above the first thread, there's a little bit of space. It's all coming back to me now. And I just tapped it in a little bit. And okay, so what that does is it gives you a sharp corner. And it tapered it in just a little bit. And then I said, I'm not sure if it was 3 Hail Marys and an Our Father or 3 Our Fathers and a Hail Mary, something like that. And I got it in my tool, my socket, and I just did it by hand. I wanted to feel it by hand. If I ruin this head, I'm going to be not happy. Okay, right there. Right there. Let me get my socket. You know, I should start this over and be a little better prepared. Because I was not planning on doing this. Flashbacks. I remember that trip. You know, sometimes you have a really good trip and you don't have anything go wrong. And then there's other trips and other days that you just ought to stay in bed, you know? I wonder if that's going to be one of these days. My spark plug wrench, here it is. Well, I'm about ready to give up on this one and start over. But you know, this is real world. And it might be better not to. Because everybody has these kinds of days. Now, I'm looking at it and it looks straight. Looks good. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. You could tell when you got that thing going. And that sharp edge is cleaning out the threads. And as you go down deeper, those ones that you didn't hit, I mean, boy, that went in real easy. Easy Jeezy. So it came in. I can even see a little few bits of metal where it probably, I don't know if it was the filings from when I hacksawed it. I probably should have been a little more careful. If it was on the engine I would, but I think I'm just trying to get the idea across here. So take that spark plug out. And you can stick that in your toolbox and use it over and over again. Just an old spark plug. Oh yeah. I don't know if you can see this in the light, but it just sharpened up those, cleaned out all the garbage in the bottom. You could probably do that with a wire brush, but where's it going to go? It's going to go right down the cylinder. If it gets by the rings, it could scratch them. Chances are it won't. As fast as that piston and those rings are scraping, chances are it's going to push it to the top and blow right out. But, you know, when you got an emergency, sometimes you take chances. Yeah, you can see a big difference between that thread and the one next to it, I hope. That one's got carbon and dirt in it, and that one's nice and clean. So, I think this is going to be multi-part. Thanks for hanging in there. Look for part 2 and 3